wheat prices have risen sharply on global markets after Russia said it would treat ships heading for Ukrainian ports as potential military targets. Moscow has pulled out of a UN deal on Monday that ensured safe passage for grain shipments crossing the Black Sea. For the past 3 nights, Russia has bombarded Ukraine's grain facilities in Odessa and other cities as well. Now, Moscow also warned that from 20th of July, any ship going there would be seen as siding with the Kiev regime. And on Thursday, EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, said it would all create a huge food crisis in the entire world. Ukraine has described the latest attacks as Russian terror and said that they were meant to disrupt global food supplies. On Thursday, the strains were starting to show already on global markets. Prices for wheat have climbed again on fears over long-term disruption to wheat supplies. Meanwhile, in a similar warning to Russia, Ukraine has said ships heading towards Russian or occupied ports on the Black Sea could be viewed as carrying military cargo. Now, US wheat futures jumped 8.5%, the highest daily rise since Russia's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine. The sharp increase in grain cost after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year led to rising prices, not just for food items based on grains, but also for meat and poultry, as animals are often fed with grain. Here's a report.
Ukraine's southern ports woke up to more carnage on Thursday morning. Russian missiles hit Odessa and Mykolaiv overnight. It was the third successive night of airstrikes on the region. Officials said at least 21 people were wounded in the latest attacks. Russia has stepped up strikes on the Black Sea ports after withdrawing Monday from a deal to allow Ukrainian grain exports. On Thursday, it turned up tensions again, saying any ships heading to Ukraine's ports could be considered targets. That might scupper Kyiv's plan to resume exports via Romanian waters. It's all reviving fears over global food supplies and prices, with grain stocks and port infrastructure also destroyed in the latest attacks. On Thursday, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said it would all create a huge food crisis in the world. He said European countries would have to help find new routes for Ukraine's grain shipments.
If the sea route is closed, we will have to increase the capacity of exporting Ukrainian grain through our ports, which means a bigger effort for the neighbor Ukraine. They will have to contribute more, opening the borders and facilitating transport.
Ukraine described the latest attacks as Russian terror and said they were meant to disrupt global food supplies. There was no comment from Moscow. Speaking a day earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin had said he wasn't against reviving the grain export deal. But he said its collapse was down to Western countries not fulfilling promises over Russian exports. On Thursday, the strains were starting to show on global markets. Prices for wheat climbed again on fears over long-term disruption to supplies.
This terrorist attack proves that their target is not only Ukraine and not only the lives of our people. In the ports that were attacked today, there were about 1 million tons of food stored. It is precisely that amount that should have already been delivered to consumer countries in Africa and Asia. In the port terminal, which suffered the most from Russian terror tonight, there were stored 60,000 tons of agricultural products intended for shipment to China.
We have been extending this deal time and again, and doing so we showed miracles of restraint and patience and tolerance. We expected that our international colleagues would finally start to fully observe and agree and approve parameters and conditions. However, this was not the case. They used the grain deal to profiteer shamelessly. They simply and fully distorted the meaning and essence of these agreements. I will remind you, initially the deal has been aimed to safeguard the global food security, decreasing the threats of hunger, and to support the poorest of countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. This was why Russia has committed itself to promote its fulfillment. I want to assure you that our country is able to replace the Ukrainian grain on both commercial and charitable basis. Moreover, we expect a record harvest this year, as the Minister of Agriculture has just reported. Summing the aspects I have mentioned, the continuation of the grain deal in the form in which it existed has lost any meaning.
Вновь ожидается рекордный урожай.
Last night, Russian armed forces continued carrying out retaliatory strikes with sea and air-based high-precision weapons on workshops and warehouses with uncrewed boats in Odessa and Ilishvis in Odessa region. Moreover, fuel, infrastructure objects and ammunition warehouses of the Ukrainian armed forces were destroyed near Mykolaiv. The aims of these strikes were achieved. All designated objects were hit.
Land corridors cannot export full amount of cereals available for export. This is the issue, which means that prices will go up because of the shortage of delivery. It is so important to make everything possible to restore Black Sea Grain Initiative, to return balance to the global food market, to return prices under control, and to give Ukraine the possibility to provide cereals to the countries who need it the most.